we started having a chair over there. It's a red chair and it's written on it, the customer sits here, so that we always remember any decision that we're coming up with is actually taking the customer into consideration. Scalability, it starts with simplicity, and simplicity comes from clarity. And that's the key to it. Your real investment starts with the infrastructure. That means what tools are you using? What systems are you using? Are they connected to each other? Do they need any API integrations that happen out there? Once you start having the single user ID, I will start knowing everything about Justin, and I will be able to start helping Justin in a personalized manner. And that's the key term here, personalization. It's as if you're installing a turbo engine in a car with flat tires. Our infrastructure to the next level at Nissan, and COVID hit. People were not coming to do their service maintenance. Everybody was scared. So we had a problem. The cost right now for having amazing infrastructure is nothing compared to what it was 5 years ago. Start with the why. Why are you creating that product or that service? We came up with that customer experience platform called Shop at Home with Nissan, which is actually still on the websites of Nissan. If you don't want to come to the showroom, no problem. We'll bring the showroom to you. If you go and blindly trust AI systems, it's your mistake. You definitely shouldn't go and trust blindly a system.
Welcome to another episode of Future Proof Leaders Podcast, where we unpack what really takes to build businesses to scale without chaos. Today, I have a powerhouse guest, which is Hussein Dejani. He's led transformation in customer service innovation for global brands like Nissan, Mercedes Benz, and Volvo. And he's here to help you understand what big brands do right when it comes to scaling, systems, and trust, and how you can apply it as a lean founder. So, whether you're feeling stuck in complexity, hesitant about AI, or unsure how to scale with integrity, this episode is going to hit home for you. So, Hussein, before we dive into strategy, I want to start here. Why is understanding consumer behavior important to you?
Hi, Justin. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm really excited about this. So, in a nutshell, I started my journey in really understanding customer insights, customer behaviors around 13, 14 years ago. And the start of this was because I'm actually a customer. So, when dealing with companies, being a consumer myself, being a customer myself, I felt so many pain points out there. I felt so much frustration, so many things when I'm dealing with those corporations. When I started working in a company, I wanted to make sure that any customer or consumer we deal with really does not face any pain points or any frustrations. I wanted to build something that is seamless, frictionless, enjoyable, and memorable when it comes to customer experience, be it on the customer service or anything of that sort. So really it's all about understanding what are those customer pain points that are out there. Once we start understanding those and not assume, so you really need to have the proper research in there, you need to have the voice of the customer and so on and so forth. This is when you start coming out with real insights or observations, and you start mapping your customer journey and your service design. This is the core of it, really. And I'll tell you one thing: when I used to work in Nissan Motor Corporation, we adopted something which is phenomenal. We, in every single meeting room, we started having a chair over there. It's a red chair and it's written on it, the customer sits here, so that we always remember any decision that we're coming up with is actually taking the customer into consideration and ensuring that product or that service or that decision that we're adopting, the customer will be okay with.
That's pretty awesome. I mean, getting the point of view from the client and the customer is something that is very difficult to do. Like, how do you do it differently? Because I'm kind of curious. Not all people can execute this way and this kind of vision on putting yourselves in the customer's shoes. So, can you tell me more about that?
Absolutely. So listen, any organization at the end of the day, most of them are non-NGOs. So you've got shareholders to come back to tell them about your revenues, your profits. And the best way to do that is through the research that you have and through the reports that you generate. When you're actually showing your shareholders or your C-suite management that, hey, we've got a problem, and that problem is leading to deteriorating revenues and profits, this is the starting point for convincing them that a change needs to happen. And from that change, this is when you start, developing your customer journey mapping. You identify what are the pain points. You start segregating them into what are the low-hanging fruits, what are the nice to have, what are the must-haves, which ones will have the direct impact on your bottom line. You start doing those enhancements. And once you do those enhancements, you start reporting back on what was the ROI on the changes that you've done to the organization. So once you start seeing that spike going up, you know that you're doing something right. And that's the starting point. So data comes at the core of all of this. We can sit and do so many speculations about so many things, but at the end of the day, it's the data which validate what you're trying to do or whether you're on the right track or not. You see, scalability, it starts with simplicity, and simplicity comes from clarity. And that's the key to it.
Yeah, that's really true, and I fully agree. And thinking about data that you just mentioned, and it all boils down to data. So, what if we have the data? What if we have all the data? How do we specifically find the right data and like execute that first thing versus so many data? Because right now, like, there's so many noise. Like, we might have this illusion of, oh, this is the right data, because maybe partly is also AI, partly is not AI, partly is also humans. But at the end of the day, there's so many data. So how do you sift and sort, and how do you kind of filter which the right data to execute?
So that's a great question, Justin. See, every organization has so much data out there. Every organization has so much data. All right. The idea is not about whether you have the data or not. It's about how clean your data is, how dated or outdated that data is. Every single touch point that's out there with a consumer or with a customer is generating data. Where are you storing that data? How clean is that data? How interconnected that data is together? So if I'm a customer that goes to the website and then goes to the mobile app and then goes to the WhatsApp business messaging service and then goes to the call center, is the company being able to know that I'm the same customer, or is it plugging me as four different customers? If you get what I mean. So it really starts with this, and this is I love this question, Justin, because so many organizations prior to starting developing a new service, sorry, many organizations they start working on developing a new service prior to ensuring that their infrastructure is actually the correct infrastructure. Your real investment starts with the infrastructure. And that means what tools are you using? What systems are you using? Are they connected to each other? Do they need any API integrations that happen out there? How are you getting access to that data? Is it automated or you need to download it? How are you inputting the data into the systems? Is it manual or is it automated? So all of that, you need to do that groundwork prior to going and either developing a new service or starting to get in touch with the customer. Because trust me, if you don't do that and you start your business, you're going to have to pay a very big price later on. And we've seen that. We've seen that. So many of the organizations who have been there for 100 years and so on and so forth, they suddenly realized that, listen, we can't continue doing business in the same way that we used to do business 50 years ago or so. So they had to put big investments behind their infrastructure in order to fix it. In order to be able to get access to the right data, number one, you need to ensure that upfront you're telling your customer or consumer that you're actually capturing the data, why you're capturing the data, and how you're going to use the data. And this is all part of GDPR or anything of that sort, all those regulations about data privacy and so on. Step number two is where exactly you're going to store that data. So your data warehouses, be it on the cloud and so on, and you need to look at the regulations in the country. So I'm based in Saudi Arabia. In Saudi, the regulations are nothing can be stored outside of Saudi Arabia. So all customer data need to be stored in Saudi. So even on the cloud, if you want to put them on the cloud, you got to submit so many documentations proving that nobody from outside of Saudi has access to that cloud. So that's number two. Number three is how you're actually, inputting the data and how are you retrieving that data. Number four, how are you using that data in order to derive and come up with, business decisions? And then how are you reporting with regards to those data? There's a term in organization called single user ID. So single ID, as in Justin, the customer who came to the website, is the same Justin who came to the mobile app, is the same Justin who used the WhatsApp business messaging service, is the same Justin who called the call center, is the same Justin who owns this product from ours. Yeah, once you start having the single user ID, I will start knowing everything about Justin and I will be able to start helping Justin in a personalized manner. And that's the key term here, personalization.
And that's very critical in any business, because if you talk about single user ID, and just for the sake of also for our audience as well, like how would you make sure that that will be captured?
Well, through the infrastructure. If you have the right infrastructure, this is how you're able to ensure that you're reaching toward the single user ID. You see, we started with GDP in the past, then we move into CDP. Those terms are going to keep on coming up over and over and over again. It's technology. The technology of today is not the same technology as tomorrow. I think you realize that, Justin, you're based out of China. You guys are skyrocketing and going at the speed of light. So things are changing super, super fast. So again, but those tools, those systems, and call them whatever you want, machine learning, AI, anything that you want. At the end of the day, those systems are what's going to help you in order to gather all the customer data and will be able to help you in ensuring to reach your customer single ID. Now,
Yes.
systems are
And
one thing.
before we
Yeah,
dive into something else, and
yeah.
I just wanted to touch base about the you mentioned about, if I'm correct, those are compliance, right? So to collect data. And maybe
Part of it,
just
yes, is compliance.
the first that you mentioned about, maybe you could share with me the acronym so that my audience and also for me as well to be very clear.
We talk about CDP, it's called Customer Data Platform. So, those, if you go to Oracle, if you go to Google, all of them have got those systems out there. The thing is, I'm not going to give you the acronyms because there are so many, number one. And number two, every once in a while, they keep changing the names of the acronyms, which becomes, it used to be called DMP, Data Management Platform. Then it moved into CDP, Customer Data Platform. So it keeps changing and evolving. And this is what I was about to say before is systems and tools are one thing, Justin. You need to get the right talent in order for them to advise you which systems and tools to use, number one. And number two, in order to activate those systems. So when I used to work at Nissan, I was heading customer experience for a very big region. And everything I've done at Nissan, I would never have been able to do it without my counterpart partners, which are the IT teams. So the IT teams were business mindset IT teams. So you shouldn't get IT teams who are solidly plugged into technology. You need to get IT teams who are plugged into technology and plugged into the business. An IT person who doesn't understand your business will not be able to come up with the right solution for you. So they really need to have the business mindset in order to understand why they're getting you that tool and what do you want to get out of this tool. And this is where it becomes important.
Yes, it is true. And even if you're gonna get people in your team, regardless whether it's just IT or other, they have to understand with a business mindset.
I mean, Justin, I'm not a technical person. I'm not an IT person. Literally, if you start talking to me technical, I would be like, but I really have no idea. But the thing is, the way I deal with my counterpart IT partners is I go to them with a business problem and I tell them, help me out with a solution. that has technology inside of it. And this is the way we start working together. So the
Yes.
reason why I'm saying this, I don't want our listeners to think that I'm a technical person or to get overwhelmed by the world of, technology and IT and all. Not at all. You don't need to be a technical person. You just need to have the right technical partner with you, and you'll be able to do magic.
Yeah, awesome. And we just want to set that frame from the beginning, because the beginning of any episode or podcast would be very critical, so that the episode, the framing of the content will be clear, right? So thank you for that. Thank you for the clarification. And this is just an hypothetical question, and I'm just curious about, can you imagine without infrastructure and system, and you're applying your knowledge or expertise into customer experience, journey, customer experience in terms of innovation, what would that look like without the infrastructure?
A very interesting question. Look, there's two scenarios, and I will tell you the two scenarios. The first one is I've seen so many founders that really fall into two traps. The first one is over engineering too early, and the second one is adopting disconnected pain point solutions. So instead of focusing on the North Star, and whether it is retention, conversion, net promoter score, and so on and so forth, and then start building their solution and processes around those, they just go and start, building the solutions. And that leads to, it's as if you're installing a turbo engine in a car with flat tires. All right. You're going to knock the wall. You're going to incur so many losses that you wouldn't imagine. All right. So that's one side of it. The second side of it, I'll tell you, during COVID, when COVID took place, and we were just about, starting with, taking our infrastructure to the next level at Nissan, and COVID hit. And when COVID hit, I was working in Nissan. People were not coming to buy cars. People were not coming to do their service maintenance. Everybody was scared. So we had a problem. Are we going to go out of business or what? And this is when what we started doing is we identified what are the pain points for customers. And what we did is we replaced the infrastructure through the automated infrastructure with manually created infrastructure. So everything that the infrastructure should be done, the way it should be done, automated and so on and so forth, because it was COVID, because we didn't have the luxury, the time, and so on to do it, we did everything manually. Can it be done? Yes, it can. But it was presented to management as being a short-term solution. The minute COVID ends, we need to accelerate in adopting this, having it automated. Did it work? It worked 100%. Did it yield the exact results that we wanted? I would say it achieved about 80% of what we intended to achieve in terms of results, which is absolutely great. But is it a sustained solution for the future? Not at all. Not at all. So we were all aware that this was a very temporary solution and that we will fix it with time, but when time allows, you know? So this is extremely important. And that's something I emphasize a lot on. And that's something that, so I'll give you a very small example. I drink Starbucks, all right? And I hate mentioning brands, but I'm going to mention it because I already wrote it on my LinkedIn. I used to live in the United Arab Emirates. So they have this loyalty app program, and I subscribe to it, I use it, and so on and so forth. Then I moved to Saudi. So I went to Starbucks and I opened my app when I went to buy my coffee, and they're like, oh, it's not working. Like, well, what do you mean it's not working? And they're like, Yeah, you need to create an account for Saudi." I was like, but you're the same company, number one. You have the same dealer for Starbucks. I mean, dealer as an authorized reseller in the UAE and in Saudi. So why am I to create a new account? They're like, this is how it is. I'm like, fine. So I go into the app, I try creating an account with the same email address because I don't have 10 email addresses. And it tells me, no, your email address is already in use. You need to insert a different email address. I was like, it's identifying me that I have an email address, but it's not letting me use the email address. So I had to create a new email address just to be able to access, and to register on the app. What does that tell you? Disconnected system,
Mm.
poor infrastructure,
Yes, it
create
is. It is
customer pain
frustrating.
points, create frustration.
Yes. I
It's the
hope you
same
didn't.
company that owns Starbucks in both countries. Entice me and give me a reason to start buying more from you.
Yes, that's kind of like really like a roadblock, especially for the customer experience.
Absolutely. I took my car, so I own a. I'm not gonna mention the brand name, but I own a European kind of a luxury car. I took it for service maintenance last week. I kid you not, 30 minutes after I left the service center, after I did servicing for my car, I got an email from them. Hi, Hussein, it's time for you to do servicing for your car. Please make sure to book an appointment. It's like, what? I just did car servicing for my car. Is your system not talking to each other? Your systems not talking to each other? So again, what I'm trying to say, Justin, is all those companies that existed from 50 years ago and so on and so forth are the ones paying the very big price right now. The unicorns, the recent unicorns like the Netflix, the Apple, and so on and so forth, are the ones who are mastering, truly mastering, the customer satisfaction, are mastering the infrastructure, are mastering the single user ID, and so on and so forth.
So very customer centric, very data driven kind of infrastructures.
They put the customer at the heart of everything that they're doing. I just opened last night my Netflix, and I know the way Netflix, the way the user design is. I know it by heart. I opened it yesterday, and suddenly there's a new user experience out there. What are they doing? They're doing A/B testing. They're trying to see whether I'm going to be comfortable with what they're proposing to me or not. And I love that.
Yes. Yes, that's interesting. And I hope that could be learned by a lot of potential unicorns.
Yeah, well, unicorns, I'm not worried about them. 100%. I'm worried about the laggards. I'm worried about, all those companies that existed from a long time ago because they are the ones who are really, really, really suffering. And they will suffer even more as time goes by if they don't, reinvent themselves, fix their infrastructure, fix their data, and fix the way they engage with consumers and customers.
So are we safe to say that the new companies, the new startups would have higher chance to survive, or I wouldn't say survive, but also thrive and lead.
I would say 99% yes. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if they don't, it means they have the wrong founders who don't understand anything about business, who don't understand anything about business, or number two, who didn't get the right teams around them to advise them on what to do. Other than that, there is no reason whatsoever for them not to strive because the cost right now for having am- amazing infrastructure is nothing compared to what it was 5 years ago.
Yes, truly agree. Truly agree. And we're just warming up here, and these are good topics that we were building up from the this episode. And since we're talking about systems, like I just wanted to touch base much more of like if we were to talk about a founder, entrepreneur, a startup, and if they're going to have their first move to make and building scalable customer centric systems, where do you recommend that they would do their first move or first step?
The first thing that they need to do, so being a founder, okay, you need to start with, like Simon Sinek said in his book and on most of his, videos out there, start with the why. Okay, why are you creating that product or that service? Why is it? What kind of pain point you're trying to solve? All right. If you can't answer this question, then your product and service most probably will not make it. All right. So you really need to start deeply understanding your customer pain points and what exactly you're trying to solve. And how to understand your customer pain points is through, in-depth research. And that research can be quantitative, can be qualitative, can be personal, can be through focus groups, anything of that sort. But you need to really You need to absorb those insights from those customers. This is the starting point. After that, you need to map out your customer journey and service design. You really need to map out what are the touch points with your customers, be that online or be that offline. How are you connecting the online world with the offline world? And we call it digital customer experience. So you really need to ensure that you are connecting those in order to be able to deliver scalable systems out there. So I'll give you a very, very, very perfect example. The shop at home platform that we created for Nissan during COVID. So the pain points were people are very scared from COVID. They don't want to go to the showrooms and they don't want to go to the service centers, and eventually, what's happening is revenues are dropping, sales are dropping. Okay. So we came up with that customer experience platform called Shop at Home with Nissan, which is actually still on the websites of Nissan globally and in the region. And if you don't want to come to the showroom, no problem. We'll bring the showroom to you. So talking about metaverse, we created a semi-metaverse or a quasi-metaverse prior to the term metaverse being out there. So literally, it's a virtual tour of the showroom where you can look around, where you can go inside the car, and if you have any query, instantly you can click on, I want to do a voice call, a video call with a sales consultant. So you can instantly do a video call with a sales consultant. Then, okay, I like this car and I want to do a test drive of it, but how is that going to happen? I don't want to come to the showroom. Not a problem. You'll choose a date, a time, and a location. We'll bring the car to you, disinfected, and you will do a test drive on your own without the need of a sales agent to be with you. You finish doing that. Okay, I'm interested. I like the car. I drove it. I want to buy it. We enabled e-commerce. And on top of the e-commerce, we enabled pre-finance approval. So online, you can fill out the form, submit it, and within 30 minutes, all the banks can come back to you and tell you whether you're eligible for a loan or not. If you are eligible, what's going to be your interest rate? You bought the car, it gets delivered to you at home. After you've driven the car, you want to do a service maintenance. We come to your place, we pick up the car, we take it for service maintenance, and we bring it back to you. You see, we looked at what pain points are out there, and based on that, we came up with solutions. And this is what founders should do.
And that's a beautiful, like, it's a VIP kind of experience
Exactly.
in certain countries, right?
Well,
I don't know
100%,
if that's
but you're not paying the price of a VIP.
yes, yes, you're getting value for money, and that
Exactly.
is that is most of the customers, like, that's what I've observed too. When they want to be wowed, they are like really all in, and they have their buy-in is because they get more value on what they're
Thank you for
paying.
using that word wow, because this is the effect that we wanted to get out there. The wow effect.
The wow effect, yes. And I'm just curious, and that's a very interesting use case study and use case. And before we dive into the next topic, I was like kind of curious about just to touch base what you just said about. So when we start our first move to go to research and all the groups and online offline, like maybe the biggest question of a founder or entrepreneur would be like, when is enough to kickstart? Because that's one of the critical things that they got stuck. They have a roadblock. They have this analysis paralysis, and they won't be moving to the next step.
That's an absolutely brilliant question. So you start with that product or service that you're developing. Who is it for? So you need to identify who's your target audience. After you identify that target audience, you start doing the research with them. Now, you come and tell me, Hussein, do we need to do the research with 50 people, 100 people, 200 people, and so on and so forth? It's the data which dictate to you when you can stop. If you start by doing the research with, let's say, 20 people, and you find a deviation of 60, 70%, this tells you have to keep going because wait a second, they're giving me completely different answers. This is not giving me any clarity. So you have to keep on going until you get that. Now, but these days it's becoming super easy. And This is where something interesting. I'll tell you that 4 days ago, I did a meeting with a company based out of the US, and it's a new kind of a research company. It's all based on AI. And what does this company do? You tell them who exactly is your target audience. You tell them in details who your target audience are. You give them all the data that you have within the company. And what they do is they create digital twins of your target audience so that instead of going and trying to get people, to do the research, they can do it for you instantly. So research that usually takes you a week to 2 weeks to 3 weeks, you're getting it in 24 hours and in real time. So in this age and time that we're living, time is no longer something for organizations to worry about, as in, I'm going to do research, I'm going to lose so much time and so on. It's no longer there. AI has accelerated things, and it will be able to really put the pulse on what the real problem is and tell you whether something is working or not working in real time.
Yes, I don't want to. So this will also open another. It begs a question of, can we actually trust 100% with AI, or do we still go and do our due diligence from what AI, let's say, for example, the company that you mentioned, we don't mention the names, but let's say that company would be able to give you within 24 hours. Would you still personally, or maybe you recommend to other companies to still do some other research, which is like the manual?
Justin, let me ask you a simple question. Do you watch Netflix? Okay. Do you know how Netflix sometimes comes to you and tells you, we think you're gonna love this movie? Emphasize on the word love this movie. And you end up watching the movie, and when you finished it, you'd go like, it's nice, it's okay. I wouldn't say love. I would say okay, all right. If you go and blindly trust AI systems, it's your mistake. You definitely shouldn't go and trust blindly a system. All right. So I'm not talking here about just AI. I'm talking about any system in the world. Spotify comes and tells me, those are songs that you're gonna like them based on your previous interests. And I listened to them. I was like, this is crap. No, this is not what I like. I mean, how did you derive those? So again, a system, okay, comes to you with solutions, comes to you with recommendations. It's up to you as a human to start looking and deep diving into that data, those results that the AI system gave you in order to derive what's right and what's wrong. Again, AI is not there to replace you. AI is there to enable you, all right? But you still need the human. I mean, we've been hearing about, all of this AI is going to replace jobs. AI is not going to replace jobs. AI is going to replace people who refuse to use AI or who don't know about AI or are resisting learning about AI. But AI is actually going to enable humans who actually adopt AI. And that's the interesting thing about it. So, yes, those AI systems are giving me the results. I read them. If some of them are not making sense, I just, I throw them out or I investigate further. But day after day, those AI systems are becoming much more and more intelligent. We are very close to getting towards a super artificial intelligence. So once we get really there, the trust in the AI systems will become more and more. I created yesterday a custom GPT clone of mine, and I've been testing it since yesterday all the time because I want to make sure it doesn't go and tell people wrong information. Can I be 100% sure of that? No. But hey, at least it's a start. You got to start somewhere. And this is what we call just an MVP, minimum viable product. You start with an MVP, you test it out. You start feeling the customer sentiment or the user sentiment. Are they happy with it? Are they not happy with it? Is there something wrong with it? So on and so forth. After the MVP is validated, this is where you move into full scale.
Yes, and also to fine tune that MVP. So that is a given. It's a great way to see your perspective and really getting out from that whole angle of, a lot of people are just really stuck into, oh, I'm contented with the answers, I'm contented with the findings, the data, and all that. So that was really critical for a lot of people, which A lot of people, I mean, I find people who are just copy and pasting with a lot of output. So I just wanted to make sure that we could discuss that upfront so that people can also learn from this episode. So and and let's say with your opinion about like what's the biggest mistake small business or medium business owners like make when they're trying to scale with systems?
And this is what I was talking about before. You start running before you start walking. And that's the biggest problem. This is exactly, when I sit with entrepreneurs here in the region and I tell them, you get so plugged into your solution or your product or anything of that sort, but you kind of forget that there's actually a human being out there that's actually going to use those system and that product. So you become so obsessed with it to an extent that you forget why you're actually building it, and this is what leads to a total flop or failure. So they really need to start in really understanding, why are they creating that product or service, what problem are they trying to sort out, and number three, do they have the right enablers? And by enablers, I'm talking about infrastructure to be able to launch that product or service or upscale or go full-fledged. So those are the real problems. They start running before they start walking. And this is a very big problem. They get so excited and so like they feel so pressured that they need to launch without being ready. And this ends up costing them way more than actually if they waited till they have the right, you know, pieces in place.
Yes. And I'm also curious to touch base about the word infrastructure. Would we also include the people in the equation?
Well, for you to have the right infrastructure, you need to have the right people in place. So again, if you talk about a company, if you're creating any company or you need to have the right capital in place. No, let me start with you need to have the right leadership in place. So you need to have the vision, the mission, the purpose, where exactly why we're doing this. You need to have the right strategy in place. You need to have the right funding in place. You need to have the right people in place. All right. And you need to have the right idea. So those five things need to be there in order for you to be able to scale things up. So the funding and the people are important in order for you to build the right infrastructure. Without
Yes.
those two, you're not able to do it.
And by funding, are we also talking about revenue coming in?
Funding could be either revenue coming in, or it could be about the original capital that you're putting into the company, be it shareholders, be it anything of that sort. So anything around that.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's very clear now. So I
Absolutely.
hope I'm enjoying for this kind of session from the beginning, starting. So if we're going to talk about like an example where we're focusing on the customer journey directly led to scalable results, I know that you've shared a few use cases,
Yeah.
and maybe now you could share something that we specifically talk about focusing on the customer journey that
Yeah.
directly led them to scalable results. Like they did this maybe MVP or use case or execution, and that led to how they scale the business.
Well, the shop at home, the idea of shop at home when we first created it, and I remember very well when I went to the board and presented to them the idea, and I told them, what I'm presenting to you is not a solution for COVID. I'm presenting to you a business transformation idea. So regardless of whether COVID ends tomorrow or in a year or 6 months, what I'm presenting to you are solutions that are part of a business transformation, which means they are going to become the new way we do business with customers. And that was the idea around it. So shop at home, and this is why COVID ended long time ago, but shop at home is still on the website of Nissan. So you go in there. So which means e-commerce is still there. And I remember very well when I first said that, I want to start selling cars online, everybody started laughing. You know, buying a car is like the second biggest investment you do in your life after buying a home. But guess what? It pulled off. We are selling cars online and we are selling in big amount. I can't reveal the numbers for confidentiality reasons, but actually big number of cars online. Why? Because if you buy a car online, it's actually cheaper than going and buying it in the showroom. Because online, you're doing everything online. All right. You don't need any sales agent to be with you. Whereas when you go to the showroom, you have the sales agent whom you have to pay the salary, you have
Commission.
the commission, you have to pay the electricity in the showroom, you have to pay the rent of the showroom, and so on and so forth. So all of that, we were able to get a discount on the cars online versus in the showroom. Now, why is infrastructure important? And listen to this. I know somebody who went online to buy a car and he didn't find the car online. All right. So, sorry. I know somebody who went to the showroom to buy a car. He found the car over there. He found the price and so on and so forth. And he said, you know what? Let me go online. I'll buy it online. It's cheaper. He went online. He couldn't find the car. He found the car online. So he ended up buying it for a cheaper price and so on and so forth. Guess what? Because systems were not updated, that car, which was sold online, was sold a week ago to another customer, and they only had one car left in their warehouse. So what ended up happening is they sold the same car to two customers. And what ended up happening is they sold them the car from the showroom, which means they lost revenue because it was their mistake. Their infrastructure was not outdated, and they ended up selling the same car to two people. So they had to compensate it in one way or another. See, that's a big problem. I went on one of the e-commerce platforms a month ago and I bought, in China, you guys are developing those iPhone covers where you can have the picture that you want on the back. So you go to it has an app. You go in the app. You give it access to your photo library. You choose the picture that you want, and suddenly it projects on the back of the iPhone. I don't know if you've seen that or not. So it's made in China. So I bought this product online, and after waiting, it told me it will be delivered in 10 days or so. After waiting for 7 days, I got an email back from them telling me your order was canceled and we are refunding your money. And I was like, who canceled my order and why was it canceled? It's because systems were not integrated with the sellers and they
Mm.
didn't know that actually the seller does not have anymore this product in their as part of their offering. How would that make you feel? Pissed off.
Of course, like you're excited about one thing, you're waiting for it,
Exactly.
and
No,
as a
and your whole
customer,
business is based on e-commerce. So you can't come and tell me, hey, sorry, yeah, the seller did not update, the stock he has, or I don't care. That's the exact word. I don't care. A customer will come and tell the company, I don't care whether your systems are updated or not. It's not the customer's problem. It's the
Hmm.
least of his importance or attention.
So now, Hussein, let's talk about a little bit more into the human touch. We're talking about humanizing AI. We're going to talk about making technology feel personal. So let's shift into AI because there's a real fear among founders that's using AI. This means losing the personal connection. So let's start with a question of how can entrepreneurs start using AI without sounding robotic and losing that authenticity?
I love this question because this is what's extremely important. The number one thing that they need to understand and believe in is that AI is not there to replace a human. So any solution that you want to implement AI in it, it's actually not you're not replacing a human from handling that solution or that service. All right? It's there to augment them. It's there to free up more of their time in order to, elevate the service offering that it's doing there. So I'll give you a perfect example. We developed Saudi Arabia's first automotive after sales generative AI solution, which was implemented on WhatsApp. So it wasn't a bot. It's a generative AI solution. And it took us about 6 months to work on it. And the reason why it took us 6 months is because we wanted to make it as human as possible. Because we wanted to keep that human element in it. What does that mean? We tried as much as possible to ensure that the way the Gen AI is interacting and engaging with people is very much in a human manner, using same human language, using jokes, using gimmicks, using emoticons and so on and so forth, in order to make them feel as as comfortable as possible dealing with a machine, because we know very well that the second you start dealing with the machine, you get pissed off and you want to move away, especially when it comes to customer service. The results have been impeccable. A 41 increase in engagement on the Gen AI agent is something to be very happy about, is something to make you feel very proud of it. So this is the whole idea, is you're actually not replacing humans, you're actually freeing up humans' time in order to elevate the service, in order to allocate more time towards the term I used before, personalization. So when you start and invite everybody, I will give you later on the number for that Gen AI agent for people to play with it. And actually, the beautiful thing about it is that this solution works wherever you are in the world. So you don't need to be just in Saudi Arabia. It's Saudi's first Gen AI automotive after sales solution, but it works everywhere in the world. And the most beautiful thing about it is, for instance, you go and you chat with the Gen AI agent and you say, "Hey, I've been trying to turn on my car in the morning and it's not turning on. What should I do?" And it replies to you, it tells you, "Oh dear, it looks like your car, stayed up late last night and it's still taking a nap or it's still sleeping." You know what? This is the way it talks to you. And then it gives you step-by-step solutions. Why? Is because we built it in partnership with OpenAI. So it's sourcing all the information that's out there in the world in order to be able to give you feedback that you require. But where the human touch comes into play is we monitor those conversations to ensure that the Gen AI agent is actually giving the right information out there to customers or consumers, number one. Number two is whenever the Gen AI agent kind of faces a roadblock, it's not able to continue the conversation, it immediately transfers it to a human who will continue the conversation with the consumer or customer. So the key is here is empathy. Empathy is at the core of it. So once you really understand, that you're actually talking to a human being at the end of the day, and you're developing a solution that will cater to a human being's needs, this is the starting point. And then any solution that you develop, be it AI, be it anything of that sort, it will be able to cater to that. So empathy remains the differentiator. AI is just there to help scale it smartly.
Yes, it is. It is. And I just want to touch base something about I'm quite curious about because like there's so many things that are front end solutions. That it could be a chatbot, it could be a clone, it could be a video, it could be just a voice. So, in your opinion, like where are we right now? Like in terms of the solution that you're using compared to what are the solution out there right now that is the most effective, which can deliver the human touch and also to avoid those. We're still dealing with technology at the end of the day. So, what are those solutions that you think?
Very interesting. There are some companies who introduce solutions that are not necessarily wrong, but they just introduce them before their time. And here I'll give an example of a bank in the United Arab Emirates called Emirates MBD. It's one of the leading banks in the UAE, and they launched a solution called Ava. It's a voice IVR. All right. Now, it's a very clever idea that they've done. The only thing is they introduced it a little bit ahead of its time. So what it ended up doing is frustrating customers a lot, and I'm being one of them, where we were not happy dealing with it. All right. And this caused a very big problem. We were not happy dealing with it. And so what they ended up doing is the bank eventually pulled it off. All right. Now, was it wrong from the bank that they introduced it? Not at all. I wouldn't say they were innovative, but they introduced it, number one, ahead of its time, and number two, I personally believe this is not based on any research, but I personally believe before they tested it properly to ensure that it doesn't create customer friction or customer dissatisfaction or anything of that sort. So where are we right now? Right now we're at the age of Gen AI agents where you're doing chatting. Where are we directly moving towards? Where are we? The speed is going towards voice AI. So where you start talking. I can see that happening in the next 2 to 3 years very fast, where call centers are going to start being handled by voice AI systems and where chatting is going to move into voice AI. I do believe that. I do believe we're heading in that direction.
Yes, and probably I don't know if you have heard like there are some solutions, and I'm not sure if it's business or customer centric. I saw this somewhere, which you can even have like a companion.
Well, this is what I launched yesterday my clone. It's my custom GPT. So it's basically, yes, it is kind of my companion. It's a custom GPT that I taught it everything about me as somebody who is an expert in marketing and branding and customer experience, digital transformation, so on and so forth. And you can use my custom GPT as if you're talking to me, and it will give you recommendations, it will give you advice, it will answer any questions that you have. So it can give you answers towards any topic, but it is expert when it comes to marketing, branding, advertising, customer experience, and so on and so forth. So this is the area where it will focus mostly on, and it will be able to give you the right answers towards. So yes, we're moving very much toward that. And that's a
And
very interesting era. That's a
it
that's an
is.
interesting yet freaky era, to be very honest with you. I mean, when I first shared it with my friends and colleagues, and they're like, "We don't think the world needs another Hussein Dajani out there. This is freaky, man. Freaky. Leave us alone."
Well, that could be interesting. Like, how could it be not only virtual but be
Exactly.
physically, right? We have
Exactly.
robotic rise as
Exactly.
well, especially here in China. Like, robotics is like one big
It,
thing that is
absolutely.
progressing.
Big time. Big time.
Yes. So that's very interesting. Let's go with something much more of, if you're talking about like I'm just curious about like what's one simple starting point for someone to blend automations with the real connection, because I know that we were talking about those solutions, but and a lot of people get overwhelmed, and it would be good to, since you mentioned earlier you're not like an IT person, and I think getting that perspective would be really refreshing with all the noise out there.
Yeah. So I'll tell you one thing is, you need to start with AIs that listens. They listen to the sentiment analysis, they listen to what customers are saying. I think this is the starting point that is becomes extremely important because you really need to derive what are the customer frustrations out there. Okay, so you do automated survey analysis, you do those online listening tools and so on, and then you move into implementing the light automation like email personalization, chatbot triage, and so on and so forth. You start the focus on augmenting your team's ability to really care and just automating for the sake of automation, if you get what I mean. So, again, anything that you're creating, it's all about elevating the human experience. Anything that you're creating is to show empathy. Anything that you're creating is towards number one, getting your manpower, as in your team members in your organization, to become more customer centric and to understand that they're catering towards a human and not a user ID. And number two, in order to get that customer or consumer to feel that this company actually cares for me, this company actually knows me. And this is
Empathy.
where it becomes super interesting. It's beyond empathy. It's about really the personalization. How would you
Yes.
feel if a company that you've been buying from for such a very long period of time, they send you an email and they tell you, "Hello, Mrs. Justin. How are you feeling today?" Number one, I'm not Mrs. Justin. I'm Mr. Justin. I'm a male. I'm not a female. And number two, how come you don't know me? Seriously, I've been buying from you for such a long time. How come till now you don't know me?
Yeah, that's very common. There's always a disconnect in the marketplace, and with the noisy marketplace, I think the best, and I wanted to dissect this from you and really get from and pick up your brain on what has accumulated and you have been masterful in the customer experience. What are the non-negotiables if you're going to talk about like the elements of like the dream customer experience that could give a customer satisfaction, whether it's with AI or not?
So, Justin, if I come and tell you, can you tell me, and actually, I'm going to ask you the question. Can you tell me when was the last time you had an enjoyable interaction with a company or a brand?
One time where there were surprises. So I think this was back when me and my wife went to Thailand. We went to Bangkok, and it it wasn't a brand that we really love or the brand has really given some impression. But what I realized, because that was my birthday, and of course, partly it was my wife's sneaky plan to surprise me. But other than that, the restaurant was simply giving us some free desserts and free stuff for birthday celebration, right? With wines and all that stuff, which is really good. And they even have like a group to sing for me, which is, I'm not used to it, especially like with my age. I don't count how many years old I am, and when that happens, it just gives you that surprised and very memorable moment, and you will always remember that restaurant. So, and guess what? Like even now, we still keep on talking about a restaurant.
I love this. Amazing. You see, why do you remember it? Because it evoked something here in your heart. It created that happiness. So that happiness evoked emotions. Those emotions were memorable, as you rightly said. Now, if I come and ask you a different question, can you please just count on top of your mind how many brands you or companies you faced negative experiences with?
A lot.
Thank you.
A lot.
Thank you. So you proved my point. When I was in Nissan, I used to gather my team members every quarter. We used to go into a meeting room and I used to give them post-it notes and I used to tell them, can you write for me the last best experience you've had over the last quarter? And why did we used to do that? Because our mission at Nissan, customer experience team, was to beat the last best experience every customer faces. And that's not something easy to do. We wanted to beat the last best experience, regardless of the industry, regardless of the product or the service. We wanted to beat that.
And curious, since you mentioned that, like how do you guys do it? Like after every quarter you're gonna talk about it, and
Yes, that's interesting. So after everybody puts down their last best experience on post-it notes, out of a team of around 18 people, believe it or not, we would get only 3 or 4 entries of the last best experiences they faced. So we look at those 3 or 4 entries and we look at them. What's the common denominator about them? Was it empathy? Was it the product itself? Was it the service itself? What was it exactly that led to that last best experience? And then we try to, so we derive the learning from it. And this is how we inject that same delivery that led to the last best experience. We try to implement it in the organization.
just curious, right? When you implement that, do you also revisit it
Measure. Do we
every year?
measure? Yes, we do.
And
Yes, we
how
do.
would you measure it?
Through something called Net Promoter Score. So the Net Promoter Score will be able to give us an indication, number one. And number two, through surveys called Voice of the Customer. We revisit the survey of the Voice of the Customer and we implement a question inside of it with regards to that implementation or enhancements that we did.
Yes, and also curious, do you use AI in this process?
When I was in Nissan, no, because AI back then was not really a big hype. Right now, would you tell me would I use AI? 100% I would use AI in it because you can very easily use AI. But how would I use AI? I would use AI not to do the research. I would use AI to analyze for me the answers. Again, when you say use AI, you need to define what will you use AI for. So it's not about just using AI for the research and that's it. No, what exactly is going to be the use of the AI in the research? Which part of the research are you going to use AI for? And what do you want to get out of the AI? And this is what matters the most. People sometimes forget why they're using a certain technology. Don't get too excited too fast and jump on a technology before knowing what do you want to get out of the technology and why are you using the technology, and this is the key. And it's
Mm.
exactly the same example like the bank I was telling you, which they implemented the voice AI. So why did they implement the voice AI, and what did they want to get out of it?
The key thing is very with that specificity to give you much more clarity on what really matters.
Absolutely.
That gives us a very clear context on really what matters in each processes, not just customer experience, customer journey, customer satisfaction. It's really behind the curtains, like what is that specific process, the workflow.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yes. And no, and you know what? That's a very valuable thing. And to today's world, with the noisy world, and now we can probably, I want to touch base a little bit more of the brand trust, because like as we talked about, like as we evolve, there's so many things, so many information, very noisy crowd, noisy world, so many competition. And if we're going to talk about brand trust, so just top of your mind, like what builds real trust in today's saturated market?
Honesty. So as a brand, when talking to me, if you want to capture my data, tell me why you want to capture my data. Tell me what you're going to use my data for. All right. If you're tracking my behavior online, tell me that you're tracking my behavior online and tell me why you're tracking my behavior online. All right. If you're introducing a new AI solution, tell me why. If you have a Gen AI agent, so if you go to Petrominute, the Gen AI agent that we created, from the first line, when you start chatting with it tells you I'm a Gen AI agent. It doesn't lie to you and pretend that it's a human. It tells you from the beginning, I'm a Gen AI agent. And even more, it tells you, while I'm not 100% perfect, I'm continuously learning. Why is it saying this? Because consumers have the right to know that sometimes the answers might be wrong, but it will keep enhancing. So there's nothing wrong with a brand, being honest. There's nothing wrong with a brand saying, I'm not perfect. And I don't know why so many brands, so many organizations shy out from this. Be honest, be human, This is empathy. Respect your consumers just like they're respecting you. Have trust in your consumers like you want your consumers to have trust in you. Otherwise, the formula is not going to work. I've ditched so many companies because they are not honest. And in this age and time that we're living, loyalty is zero. Because there's so many competitors out there in the marketplace, I don't need to stay with you as a loyal customer. The minute I feel you're taking advantage of me or you're not being honest to me or you're not, I just leave you and I go to somebody else. So honesty is key. Transparency is key. Empathy is key. Clarity is key. Personalization is key.
So there you go. All those elements are critical.
Absolutely.
Yes, honesty, in my experience, like when I go to a website, they do have trackers, right? And they have cookies,
Yeah.
and some will be forced to, you have to accept it. There's no deny or all of that. And that's something uncomfortable as a customer, right?
Absolutely. Why are you pushing me to accept something that I don't accept?
Yes. So I'm also connecting that use case, which is very critical. And thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I'll tell you the biggest problem. You know what's the biggest problem? Justin, when was the last time you read any terms and conditions of a product or a service? You know that
I
very
don't.
small,
Very
and you
small.
don't read it. Very small line that they put for you, terms and conditions apply. And nobody reads those. Why nobody reads those? Because it's a minimum of 30 pages. Who's gonna sit and read 30 pages? When you're on your Apple phone, and you want to update your software,
Software.
it tells you accept, like terms and conditions, and you keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. Guess what? Nobody is reading those terms and conditions. So nobody's actually reading if Apple is telling them, hey, I'm saving everything that you're doing on your iPhone and I'm saving all your conversations and I can use them for research testing and I can sell them to companies. And it could actually be the case without us knowing. Because how many times you'd be sitting with your friend and talking about a Nike shoe. So for 5 minutes, you're talking about a Nike shoe. Then after an hour, you open your phone and you find an ad for Nike because the phone is listening.
The phone is listening, and right here, like in our house, we have IoTs. So we
Yes,
have,
all of them are listening. Same as
yeah,
me.
all day we have the Bluetooth.
Exactly.
And
So again, just honesty. Tell me I'm listening to you and tell me I'm gonna use all your data to sell it to other companies or to pass it on to other companies or to use it for marketing purposes or whatever it is. Be honest. Don't come and tell me, but it's written in your terms and conditions. I'm not gonna freaking read 30 pages.
yes, and thinking about it, Hussein, you know what? Our car also have AI, and
Exactly.
yeah, so it's literally everywhere. And
It's everywhere. I mean, my sister keeps freaking out about privacy and no, this. I tell her, listen, you have a smartphone in your hand. Forget privacy. No matter what you do, you can't hide it. You have a smartphone in your hand. I mean, I'm using a smartwatch. I have an iPhone. I'm sitting behind IoT softwares. I'm literally telling the world, come and watch me at TV. Again, Hussein TV, live, online for you to know everything about him. I have a clone, a custom GPT. So,
so everything's like
yeah,
privacy is
this
like
is why
probably the last thing that
yeah,
we have
this
to
is why I
be worried.
adopted a couple of years ago, and I said, I don't care about privacy. I have everything online. I don't care because I have nothing to hide. But is that the sentiment of every person out there? No. Many people are still worried about privacy and all of that. And this is why I'm telling you, companies ought to be transparent, honest with their customers and consumers.
Yes, yes. And just to touch base about honesty, right? What do you think about authenticity? Because authenticity and honesty could probably be in a two different spectrum.
True. I do see them as being very much correlated together. Now, you could have an authentic product, all right, but an organization that's not acting in an authentic way. But at the same time, you can have both of them happening together. The way I view authenticity is correlated with honesty and transparency. This is the way I see it. You want to be authentic? Now, your product might not be an authentic product. It might not be, the state of the art product, but be honest about it. That's the key.
Yes. And that would also help you with your brand trust because there's so many noise in the market, and we don't know which one. Sometimes we don't know which one is real, honest, or even authentic. And I'm thinking, and maybe I'm wrong, and maybe I want to get your thoughts. Maybe the world is going through that phase where we're also craving for that authenticity even more because of the AI contents out there, AI generated, and without like a copy and paste kind of thing. What are your thoughts about around that idea?
Brand trust is on a decline because people are getting scared nowadays. All right. We're now at what we call the tipping point where everybody is eyeing, okay, what's going to be next with AI, if you get what I mean. And I'll give you a perfect example. I used to own a Tesla, and my wife told me, you want to buy a Tesla, that's fine, but there's no way on earth you're buying with it the package of autonomous driving. My wife was completely against that. Like, she's like, I'm not trusting a machine driving the car. There's no way on earth. And every time she's sitting with me in the car, she was on the edge. She was scared. Like, is the car suddenly gonna take control of you and start driving and hit us in the wall or something of that sort? There is that fear because there is no clarity about who's controlling the AI and whether the AI is controllable or not. Especially when we're going to move towards a super artificial intelligence. The Tesla car is on a battery, right? And you charge the battery. So, when the floodings happened in the US, what ended up happening, and I read this online, so don't quote me. I don't know if it's accurate 100%, but I read online that they were able for people to get out of the city where the floodings were happening. They were able from Tesla headquarters to recharge the batteries, to put in the system that the batteries are 100% for everybody so that they can drive and get out of town. Now, is that true or not? I have no idea. But what does that tell you? There is a certain power controlling your car out there. And that freaked my wife even more. And this is why I go back to honesty, transparency, authenticity is key. Tell me, and I'll be much more relaxed. I won't be anxious. But don't tell me or deny it when it's actually there. This creates a problem.
So it's much more of also the sense of control, also the sense of choices that we're given, whatever the solution may be. And a use case that I want to share with you here in China, I don't want to mention the brand, but it is also an EV, which they started with autonomous driving, which there was a few accidents. And which is that's some of the features, maybe it was still much premature at that time because this happened like a few years ago. You know how China is very experimental and innovative, and there was a feature where one of the make and model had this feature to autonomous driving at certain extent. It's not like 100%, but it has some malfunctionings, and the family died with that crash. So how many incidents? There's a few, but it's that those are like we call it casualties, right? But that's the reason why we have to also protect ourselves. We have to stand our ground to see, do we actually have control? Do we have the freedom of choices?
It's not about being against Tesla or against Emirates MBD or any of those. On the contrary, I salute them for the innovation. But at the same time, as a consumer, I have the right to get treated with honesty, with transparency. It's my safety at the end of the day.
So I think that's a great way of really opening up the honesty point that you just pointed out, because customer experience or satisfaction is it boils down to the control and the choices at the end of the day.
Absolutely, really, absolutely. And trust me, once you have this, you will become a much more humanistic brand or company, and you will start seeing how people will start valuing you more. They want to deal with you more. They want to spend time with you more, and they will become your brand ambassadors.
Yes, and that's what every company
Is
wishes,
is wishes exactly,
but not all are implementing it.
exactly.
So that's a great topic to delve in. However,
That's
we're gonna.
I mean,
However,
Justin, I can sit with you all day long discussing because if you notice, we're moving from one topic to the other and one topic to the other. It's just such an interesting, from where we started in the beginning of the podcast to where we are now. It's such an interesting, and it can keep going and going.
I hope you feel that it's seamless on
It,
how
it
we're
is, it
jumping.
is seamless. It is seamless indeed.
All right, well, that's a good feedback. So let's jump into a much more of your probably your use cases, your studies, and I think this is what is very valuable for the audience. Like you work on campaigns like She Drives, Volvo AI Films. What lessons can a founder or an entrepreneur apply from those campaigns in this noisy world?
So the She Drives is Saudi Arabia. Women in Saudi Arabia were not allowed to drive in the past, okay, because of a law that's there. And then suddenly the law was lifted and women were allowed to drive. I was working in Nissan back then, the first actually automotive brand that came up with the proposition called She Drives. And why was it called She Drives? Is because, a female, regardless whether in Saudi or anywhere in the world, is driving things at home with her family, is driving things, in her society, and now she's behind the wheel. And so she drives. She's a main driving factor. All right. Now, I'll ask you this question, Justin, and amazing that you're from China because you will be able to tell me to give me a glimpse from China. When was the last time you saw an advertisement, be it a TV commercial or a print ad or an outdoor, of an automotive brand talking to a female audience?
It depends. I don't really see the specific target gender because maybe my feed maybe is for men. I don't know, but I haven't seen it.
Automotive brands worldwide, most of their communication are geared towards males. So we became globally the first brand to actually start talking to female audience through sheet drives. And that was brilliant. So we did the campaign. The campaign was translated to, if I'm not mistaken, plus 30 languages worldwide. So Nissan's globally in almost every single market, you know, took that TV commercial that we did and put it. So if you go to Nissan Saudi Arabia, there is still a section over there called Chi Drives. So when you go over there, everything is geared towards female audience, teaching them everything about a car and so on and so forth. So we took that experience from online all the way to offline inside the showrooms where they had a corner called Chi Drives Corner. So why is this important? Because you suddenly have a new audience out there, that you are getting towards. And you got to ensure that all your communication is placed in the right way, and you have no idea how much female audiences appreciated that. I'll give you another example. When my daughter, I have one daughter, she's now 2 years old. So when my daughter was born, I was working in consulting. My wife used to go to work, and I used to work from home. So I was literally like raising our daughter, changing diapers, showering, feeding, all of that.
Daddy daycare.
Yeah. So when you're holding your baby and you're giving them the milk, the bottle, you usually put water and milk inside of it, and it has to be like 80 milliliters or 120 milliliters. So when you're feeding the baby, the most important thing is when the milk ends from the bottle, you should immediately remove it because if the baby keeps sucking, air will go inside of them and they will not feel comfortable. The problem with this is you can't see when the bottle has ended. And the worst thing you can do to a baby is take out the bottle just to see if there is still milk inside of it and put it back in. Nobody ever thought about that. Nobody ever thought about that. How is it possible throughout all those years? Nobody ever thought about that. You see, when I started becoming a daycare daddy, I noticed so many things. I'll give you a different example. When I think that my daughter pooped, why do I need to remove the diaper only to realize, no, she did not poop. She actually farted, excuse the word, then put back the diaper. I'm creating an unenjoyable experience to her. Why isn't there on the diapers that gives you a sign that actually she pooped? See, all those things, nobody thought about them. All those things are insights. Now I will go to the third example. Please tell me, when was the last time? Do you have kids, Justin?
Yeah, I do. I also had that face. What you had.
Now tell me one thing. When was the last time you saw baby brand products talking to male audiences? I've never seen a single communication talking to all of them are towards moms. So why are they alienating the dads? You know how many dad parents are there out there in the world? There's so many of them, like you and me. So why they're not talking to us?
That's a very good question. Maybe it's more of, the idea of this is how it's used to be.
No, no, because I can come very easily and tell you, why is there a women empowerment movement out there? Why isn't there a men's empowerment movement out there? Why am I being alienated from baby products?
Why is that? Like, you're making me curious.
Because the assumption is, and actually it's not great for moms, the assumption is the role of moms are just the baby takers. This is the global assumption worldwide. Just like when you're looking at any food product that's about, cooking and so on, all the advertisements are towards moms because they've put inside a box a mom is a baby taker, a mom is a cooker. A mom is a cleaner at home. You see what I mean? This is the way the world is operating. So I hope this answered your question about really the way we thought about it.
Yes, yes, and you made me thinking about how China market has evolved, and just want to share like probably a few
Please do.
things that I've observed after you've you've shared
Please
those
do.
ideas. When I see the e-commerce here, when we talk about cars, because like for me, like we have a car and sometimes we need to buy accessories, and I see so many different angles. I see if this car is this make or model, let's say for example, so we have this brand of our side. It's called Li Xiang, is the Chinese name of the car, and they position themselves into a family car so that they could target families, like small families. And usually we do have those advertisements and all that, right? But come to think about the women's side, there's also advertisement about, oh, like how the daily driving of a lady driving a Mercedes Benz, a luxury car, maybe it was a Porsche, or so something, those angles that I've kind of saw. And they're selling few things, right? It could be the small things like maybe a charger of the car, or something you're gonna stick on the car, or something like an air freshener, or like a humidifier inside the car. Like there's so many things, but that will also open opportunities that probably a lot of women in China would drive. So it's not the same as Saudi, which there was a law that women couldn't drive, but here, as long as you have money, you can just do whatever you want, right? So that opens a new market, because cars before was really like just focus in men, and right now like I'm also seeing things around, like okay, these small accessories, and it's a new product innovation and also a new target audience, which is very fascinating, I would say. Like one use case I want to share with you is like there's this spray gun, water spray gun for you to clean your own car, which actually I don't really use it, but I bought it at the end because I was fascinated with the whole thing. But I see the models that are talking like live streaming and selling the guns were women. They were women, and it's
That's
not about
actually interesting.
yes, it's not about they are the ones who are washing the car, because most of the people here they go to a
Place
wash
where they get the cars
a
washed. Yeah,
car wash place, and nobody has the time to do that. But selling those product is very innovative,
yeah.
and it also speaks to like different target audience. There's women, there's men, and there's family. So not just sticking to one person, is also like a family kind of environment, target audience vibe. It's the way the customer would feel when you share your advertisement or your snippets. And that's the critical thing about branding. That's the critical thing. And that opens up a lot of ideas, and I'm thankful for that. And now let's talk about a little bit much more of a balance between, there's this aspect of credibility with innovation. So if you were to give some quick and probably top of your mind top recommendations that we could balance those two, how would you do it?
Again, it all boils down, Justin, to, why are you doing the innovation? What's the purpose of the innovation? Really, if you answer that question, this will give you the right credibility aspect of it and where it will get people to really trust in it. Again, you created an innovative product or a service. We talked about MVP. So this is what you really need to do. So where you let a small group of people test out that innovation that you've done and give their feedback about it, enhance it if there is a need to enhance it. If it's a go, if it's a green light to go to market, you take it to the market. But the way you need to convince people about, its credibility is through, through reviews from people, credible people. Number one. Number two is through, letting people come and test it, and you actually live stream when they're testing it together. And you guys mastered this in China. You guys mastered this very well, very honestly. So this is what lets people start believing in it and start having, start. This is where the service or the product starts building credibility around the innovation that it's being done. But I always go back to Simon Sinek's why. The why, the why, the why is what needs to be answered. When the why is answered, everything comes into play.
Yes, it's true. It starts with the why. It starts with why is this important? Why are we doing this? Why is this critical? Why do we even have the attention to it? And I think that all boils down to that. And that's great that we have had that closure in so many questions that opened up with the episode. And now we're going into like a quick fire to just to wrap up, like just give me one word for each question, one word answer. So are you up to it? Fire away. So what's one trait every successful entrepreneur needs?
You're an entrepreneur, right? So you're coming up with a business idea. Okay. What's your vision? Why did you create it? Where do you want to go ahead with it? What do you want to achieve? All of those needs to be answered under the vision. And if you want to elevate it to one step further, it's called purpose. What's your purpose?
Mhm. Beautiful. All right. Well, vision. And let's go with the next one, which is most powerful tool for scaling.
There isn't one. There's multiple ones. I refuse to go with just one tool. I refuse to go with just one tool because in this age and time, you gotta test, validate, and then go with the one that's most perfect for you. So I would never recommend one tool. I would recommend testing, looking at the results, and then deciding which one is the best one that fits your needs and wants.
Yes, true. True. Agree. And let's go with this next one, which is the biggest mistake founders make with customer data.
Interesting. Not having the right infrastructure, which leads to disconnected data out there, not using the data, the customer data in an ethical manner and in the right manner, abusing the customer data, selling the customer data.
Yeah, that last one is really one big deal breaker, right? All right, so let's go with the next one. One word that defines resilience for you.
Curiosity. So it's curiosity slash passion. When I hire people, I don't hire them based on their experience. I hire them based on those two traits, whether they have the passion for the job and for the company. And number two, if they are curious enough. Curious enough in the sense of are they inquisitive enough, like an investigative journalist or like an investigative police officer.
Which can be irritating sometimes, right?
Irritating, but very honestly, eye opener because
Yeah.
they make you start noticing things you might have not noticed.
I remember my wife's like, why you keep on asking questions? Because I'm curious. So anyway, just
Curiosity is brilliant. Curiosity, as they say, curiosity never killed the cat, but curiosity is brilliant. It opens up your mind into so many other things.
exactly. I truly believe in that too. So let's go with the next. One word of advice for anyone trying to future proof their business.
Accept advice. Be open to advice. See, many founders, many C-suite level executives, and so on, they think they know it all, where they refuse to listen to any advice. They need to have an open mind into listening to them. I'm not saying accept all the advices that they're getting, but at least listen to them.
Yes, that's that's actually true. A lot of people are really deep into what they're doing.
Ego.
Yeah, ego. Ego is a great word. And I believe too that we only know what we know at every certain point of our life. So beautiful, beautiful. All right. So, Hussein, thank you. You've dropped insights that I know will shift our listeners and even me think about systems AI, trust in our business. To everyone tuning in, if you're a visionary entrepreneur building to scale your business, or you're ready to simplify, automate, and lead with clarity, now is the time to implement what you just heard. So don't just take notes, take action from this episode and implement it to your business. Subscribe, share this to someone who needs it, and I'll see you on my next episode.